Welcome to part 3 of my evidential research document for Netanyahu, Iran, Trump and the King Charles all tying in. And I'm just showing some evidence in relation to the directed energy weapons threat actually in the cell towers, I believe, the mobile phones and in the smart meters and other similar technology. And we were looking at Crown Castle. And these documents are going to be filed, are distributed as well. And we have it registered as I'm reporting the fraud. Okay, remember these were taken a while ago. And you've got an address in Hong Kong again. And on the incorporation document, Faculty Office of the Archbishop of Canterbury. Everybody let that sink in, okay? Because everything is going back, and it goes back to the Vatican and to the Church of England. And here we have the Archbishop of Canterbury as well. No officers shown. So as I'm exposing the fraud, they hid the officers, which is the directors and secretaries. So they hid the information. And we have Zunid Mohammed on the document as a significant person of control on the register. And they were born in 1971. Again, we also have Mohammed Rashida. Remember, there'll be false names throughout this because the government have deliberately allowed falsification of the register. Or no verification, shall we say. And this date of birth is 1969, the year that the Prince became Prince of Wales. So Signify is another company. So every area of research, remember, so here's Signify. And on the right there, it's a Dutch multinational lighting corporation, okay? So they've integrated the threat from the directed energy into the street lighting as well. And on the incorporation document, companies made simple. Those of you who follow my evidence will know that links to the World Trade Center disaster, the National Council for Civil Liberties in a connection to the paedophile information exchange, and the removal of a very important company called Westco Anomalies, the removal of the company name from that document. Very serious crime by our governments. Here's Signify Limited on the right. Are they linked to Evangelical Alliance? That features recently, some of my research. And obviously this makes the connection to the church again. It's a criminal company, the World Evangelical Alliance. Fraudulent company. It's not been registered lawfully. Remember, they've infiltrated every faith group. They've all been deceived. The world has been deceived by a very small number of people on the scale of things. Okay, a satanic cult potentially infiltrated by the ancient Pharaoh Egyptian bloodline, because there was a resurgence of them in the 1920s and 30s, according to this. And of course, we'll come to it later actually, but that provides a motive for them to specifically remove Christianity, because the Pharaoh or Egyptian belief phased out because of Christianity. But we'll come to that later. You have Oxford and Cambridge School of English. Robert Maxwell and Ghislaine Maxwell lived in Oxford. Okay, so Oxford's a very important part of this. And they're also directors on many companies as part of this, involved in the fraud. So Christians in overseas. What's that? Heathrow Corporate Consulting. Surrey Chamber of Commerce and a school. Looking at the school based in Hampshire. Okay, so we haven't come far away at all from the last company we're looking at. I think it was Signify. Here's Lymington in Hampshire. And within that company, on the right, you have Thomas Honeyman Brown. And now they link to Isle of Wight. So I just had to charge my battery. And here we have Visit Isle of Wight Limited. Remember, Deborah Fleming, who initiated my removal from Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited, was the NHS Chief Executive Officer for Hampshire, Isle of Wight and Dorset. And Isle of Wight is where the first mobile tower, or mobile communication tower, shall we say, linked to Marconi was supposedly put. And I presume that then makes a connection to Italy, doesn't it, via Marconi. And on there you have Whitelink Limited and Gun Wharf Terminal. And when you look at Whitelink Limited, you have Whitelink Group Limited on the right. And there's Whitelink Group Limited. I'm just going to go back actually, see if there's any relevant date. I haven't got all the dates there. Whitelink Group Limited on the incorporation document. Form 10 secretaries, which links to the fraud, links to Finchley Road, Max Clifford, and therefore Jeffrey Epstein, international child trafficking. It also links to Tobias Elwood, who was the MP for Bournemouth East, who has now resigned after I've been exposing the fraud. On the right, it also links to Michael Lockwood, who has been removed, or he moved from the Independent Office for Police Conduct. Within the Wolverhampton school that we were looking at, we've gone in through Richard Jones of that school, leading to Bryanston School Foundation. And this school foundation dissolved in January 2024 as I was exposing the fraud. And you can see the address in Dorset, which is where this all started for me. And on the document, Farrah and Co., which links to Ghislaine Maxwell. She had a company called Terramar UK Limited. And when you research the World Trade Center, it also links very closely to Harriet Harman and Cherie Blair Foundation. And Tony Blair as well on there. Cancer Research UK Limited, that was started 2 months after the World Trade Center disaster. And on the left within the school, we then have a connection via Jeremy Bennett on the right there to the Royal Yacht Squadron. And that's in Brockenhurst, which is in Hampshire, where Deborah Fleming was the chief executive of NHS. And on the left, you can see the address for it, though, is the Isle of Wight. And on the incorporation document, we have Lega links. That links to the fraud. Lega links, that should be my favourite word, shouldn't it? Sorry about the word links is all the way through, but just the best way to explain it. Lega Links Limited links to Michael Lockwood again. The research surrounding the airline company for the World Trade Center disaster. Connecting to, what have we got here? Research surrounding Sevenside again, which ties into it as well. And Max Clifford. On the right, Oxford University Endowment then connects. And I started in 2007, the same year as the World Trade Center, as Export Manor Freehold Limited. And on their incorporation document, First Class Company Services, well, that had already featured in the research surrounding Rudy Giuliani, always say that wrong, the mayor of New York at the time of its the World Trade Center collapse. Also links to Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein, and then you've got the Royal Yacht Squadron Isle of Wight on the right. And within that company, Philip French connects to Mithras Investment. This is a company that had featured earlier in the research, and they were in liquidation at the time of it. And FRP Advisory, again featured in the fraud. From Queen Street. Anyway, you get your gist. It's all the way through. On the bottom, just show you this quickly, I had links to Amazon then. And Mithras had featured in the research. Oh yeah, and then you hear, which becomes relevant, the Disaster Emergency Committee. Okay, so what they're using is the fear. Okay, now with artificial intelligence, of course, they're able to make you believe that disasters are happening using mainstream media and social media in particular, to then trust in them for their criminal control over you, okay? And when in fact, probably most of it is not even true. And they just want fear to take over your lives and anxiety, because they know that if you're in fear or anxiety, they can suppress you more and stop you ascending to what you really are meant to be, which is courageous, brave, having clarity, thinking rationally. They've wanted to suppress you through drugs, alcohol, fear, anxiety, because that way they can control you. It's satanic, when really it needs to be management of people through truth, transparency, and if necessary, incentivized choice. Okay, but choice should always be priority. And Save the Children Fund, which is now being investigated as part of the cover-up for the for the fraud and the child trafficking. They're being investigated, but that'll be a cover-up. Then you've got Christian Aid on there, and then you have obviously Save the Children Company, which is fraudulent because it's not been registered correctly, and it links to Waterlows, which again links to the obviously to the Freemasons and the fraud. On the right here, you have Pediatrics Company, which goes to Companies Made Simple, the address, and on the incorporation document, Save the Children Alliance. Right, let's go back to the Netanyahu document. I think you get the idea. So basically, every area of research is Bates, Wells and Braithwaite again in relation to the directed energy threat links back into the system of fraud, to the Flemings, to forgery, to no accountability and liability deliberately, okay, which is to avoid that so that they can basically commit crimes against humanity. To Lenza, actually, I think I'll just have a quick look at this, because I think this goes to Exbourne Manor, if I remember correctly. Oh, here we are with connections to Sherborne now. This is important because the supreme leader of Qatar in the Middle East, who was visited the United Kingdom in December last year, and there was a big event held with the King, and David Beckham was there as well, who's part of this. He actually studied at Sherborne. Okay, he actually studied at Sherborne, which is in Dorset. And here's a Sherborne company linked to Ringwood, 71 Christchurch Road. Again, it'll be a false address. And they're actually using, a lot of the time, they're using different variations of addresses around Exbourne Manor. That's how big this is, okay? So that it's very clear that's what they're doing. And I've checked recently, and some of the addresses they've actually used, it doesn't exist, okay? So, and they're using made-up names. Company registrations online, which links to the Nicola Bulley case again. And then the Sherborne Developments Group links to Stanley Davis Group again. And then in Sherborne Birch Copse, again, same address, links to Surveillance Company. Cambridge Gliding Club, started in 1952. It's criminal. And then you hear that's actually, I'm quite glad I kept going, because then from this company you then connect to Siemens again. Remember, we've been talking about Siemens in the last part, so you get back into these Siemens companies, and they appear to have a forged document on this particular company for them under their previous name. You can see, look at so there would have been a company underneath there already, very likely. Look at all this. It's blatantly forged. And some of the forgeries are more obvious than that even. And then it goes into Typhoon. Typhoons, okay, were the jets supplied to the Middle East involving David Cameron as part of this international government fraud. And remember, a lot of it could be false, okay, because they need to present to the public all of these things they're doing to make you believe you have to pay more money to them, but then they defraud you of that money. Salisbury funding, Gatwick Airport, linked to the fraud. And then you go into BAE Systems, links to Nicola Bulley. Her husband worked for BAE, one of the largest defence contractors for the United Kingdom for their military, and they were the ones creating supposedly the directed energy laser weapon, if you like, called Dragonfire. I suspect that's part of the deception. Child Activity, Learning Foundation, Kids of Wilmslow, Tadpole Nurseries. So I'm just showing all of the children's companies. Then you have a link to Centrica, which is a big company. Royal Conservatoire of Scotland. So again, another royal link. Started in 1900. Very old company. It's criminal, with a different name on the incorporation document. The Glasgow Athenaeum. Athenaeum. Well, that's nowhere to be seen on the record. Scottish Power. London School of Theology, which features actually in some more research recently. The London Bible College. Remember, we're talking about the infiltration of Scripture. I absolutely don't believe that all scripture is made up and part of this, but I do think that they have infiltrated it and altered bits to fit their narrative. Here's the National Lottery link. So, of course, that gives them a vast amount of money to take from and steal from rather than giving it to the charities like they claim. Camelot Group, previous name. Legibus Secretaries, which links to Max Clifford. National Lottery Enterprises, dissolved as I was exposing it. The fraud, 10th of October 2001, 23. On the incorporation document, Jordan's. Other companies on the incorporation document, just seeing if anything jumps out. Camelot Lotteries, again, dissolved as I'm exposing it. Legibus links to Max Clifford. And then you have from the same director then, okay, bearing in mind where we've come in from, that company to do with directed energy, De La Rue International. So we then hit the currency producer. Remember, they purchased Waterloos in 1961, 5 years before the Church of Satan was founded. You have a link to a Sky company. And Fujitsu, remember we were talking about the Horizon Fujitsu Post Office Scandal Fund. All scandal forgery, which is all a lie. It won't be because of an IT issue. It'll be because of they've stolen it. Okay, or somebody's stolen it in relation to this, and they're having to make up a story because they can't admit the truth because they're satanic, evil, deceptive people. 1915, changed its name in 1977. Criminal company. This is Fujitsu Services Holdings. You can see it's a completely different name. Accounting and tabulating corporation. And then Mayflower is another company involved in wireless technology, incorporated as I'm starting to make the inquiries. Mayflower Sheffield Developments, 788 to 790 Finchley Road. International Government Fraud. A1 Company Services. Mayflower Land and Holdings, all connected. Again, Finchley Road. Finchley Road. Mayflower Technology Limited. Mayflower Technology Limited, sorry. IMCO directors. This was one I haven't seen much before. You have Mayflower Land Holdings Limited on the incorporation document and Finchley Road. Rotherham Group. Mayflower Technology was its previous first name. And then, there's only a couple of companies where the company name has gone completely. This one's been faded so much you can see they must have panicked and almost got rid of it, but left some sort of remnants there. There's about 2 companies out of to about 10,000, 11,000 I've looked at where the actual company name has gone from the document, so they would have removed it, and that's the Westco nominees one's obviously very important. Within this company, we've got William Dennigan links to Innis and DBS Mortgage Services, which then connects to the research of Rishi Sunak. Bank of Scotland, HBOS, now remember they're actually on the Prince and Princess of Wales Foundation document, Bank of Scotland and HBOS. And then Ocean Leasing. And then we've gone into the Siemens. Right, let's go back to the other document. Right, so going back to the Netanyahu document, hopefully you've got the idea there how it linked back into Siemens and the directed energy threat, and moving forward then, because it also linked into Jimmy Savile, within the Dundas company, okay, coming from Donald Trump, okay, this is directly now linked to a company document with Donald Trump's company. We have Christopher Campbell links to the Scottish Equitable Policyholder Trust. And they have a different company name on one of the documents that doesn't match it. Is it that one? Oh, my apologies. Why have I put that? There must be a reason. Oh, to say Slaughter and May on it. So that's got Slaughter and May, which again has a fraudulent company. And then you hit Ulster Bank. within a director, okay, of Dundas and Wilson. And on the left, Michael Bamber links to Ulster Bank Island Designated Activity Company, created in 1975, 4 years after the World Economic Forum, changed its name in December 2001. So you can see in the middle there, first of all, 1996, in the middle one, 5 years before World Trade Center disaster. Then they changed it 3 months after the World Trade Center disaster. Changed it one more time, and then didn't change it again, and then they closed it in January 2023, as was exposing the fraud. On the incorporation document, you have a different company name, I believe. Ulster Merchant Finance Dublin Limited, according to this document. And that has not been registered. Okay, so that's deliberate fraud by our government. And then Francesca Barnes on the left links to National Westminster Bank Public Limited Company again, which is fraudulent. We've already seen that. You can see it's not Public Limited Company on the document. It's National Westminster Bank Limited. On the right, the Royal Bank of Scotland Public Limited. Coutts Charitable Limited. Now remember, the research of the Satanic Temple, we're going to see in a minute, actually links to, but Coutts, is where Nigel Farage, sorry, I'm getting tired. Nigel Farage had issues with Coutts. I then sent in my evidence and said, look, I've got forged Lloyds Bank documents here. Government organisations appear to be involved. No media is helping. Can you help me? And he said, I'm really sorry. There's so much stuff going on. I can't help. Within 2 months, he opened accounts with Lloyds Bank. Okay. So he's part of this, and he's linked to the fraud massively as well. On the right, Christopher Campbell. Kelvin links to Kelvin Nanotechnology, and then Turk and Connell. And Turk and Connell is important because that had featured, as shown here, in relation to the Satanic Temple. Now remember, this is from Donald Trump, everybody. All right? This is from Donald Trump. And this is showing some of the screenshots from the Satanic Temple United Kingdom Company. And when you search Owen, now Stephen Owens and Owens and Porter were linked to Export Manor Freehold Limited. You also have a Betsk name, remember, on that document. And then you go in to Owens Film Partnership and you have Turk and Connell, the same company, which dissolved in January 2022. And when you go into Turk and Connell, you then hit the fraud, and Dundas and Wilson, of course, is on there. Look, thinking to Donald Trump. Into Ulster Bank, you've got this Graham person links to Dale Farm Limited. Elevina, that's a nice name. Elevina Graham links to Dale Farm Limited. Well, and there it is again. And that was one of the company names on the Satanic Temple document, linking to what I suspect is the Paedophile Information Company Limited. Further down, which links to Arla Foods. And look at the company names. Dale Farm Foods Limited. The same company name. In fact, they had it. Dale Farm Limited, Dale Farm Foods for this. The Arla Company, which they appear to have been using to try and poison the population through the Arla Company using Bovaer. And there's a couple of articles in relation to it. And it's a criminal, fraudulent company. It's never been registered. And just a zoomed in image. Sorry, I know I'm moving this all over the place, aren't I, tonight? But you can see there, just zoomed in a bit more, the previous company names for Arla, Dale Farm Foods Limited. I am getting tired. Now, interestingly, I've already explained to you the connections to my dad's adoptive family. My dad had various jobs, okay, as a carpenter, and he had contracts with BBC, with Wimbledon Tennis Courts, but he also worked for Webb's company, which was a cheese company, a dairy product company. And when you go in through that company, you reach Arla again. Okay, so So this is how closely and personally connected this is to my life. Now, you've also got the link to MK Ultra via via the company's house research that goes to a Masonic building right near to where I used to live, or not far away. And one of the directors links to my school. You go in through that, and then it links to Waterman companies, which then appear to link to my dad's adoptive family, who are associated with the Cray twins. And the Cray twins, I suspect, are going to have been involved in the murder of the real heirs to the throne. That's what the evidence is starting to look like. And within the Ulster Bank company on the left, Rosemary Quinlan links to JP Morgan Markets. And then this is how sinister they are. They've got RSA Northern Ireland. Bearing in mind, we've got PIE, PIE, I think that's Paedophile Information Exchange, RSA. It would not surprise me if this is mocking humanity, and that is ritual satanic abuse. That would not surprise me. On the right, you have Bridget Rosewell, links to the Girls' Day School Trust. I've just mentioned that because I believe that's also on the satanic document. And then you've got the same director links to the London Chamber of Commerce, which has an address of Queen Street, still an active company. And on one of their documents, you can see right at the bottom there, on the Articles of Association, Waterlow and Sons. Thanks very much. Come back. I'm going to build more evidence and come back to you. Thank you very much for watching. Sorry it's been a bit all over the place, but hopefully you've got the sort of gist of it. Thanks very much. Bye.